तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभीडितं कल्मषापहं शरवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदातलं भुजनन्ति भूरिराजना. Your words are like nectar, bringing life to squirt souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome, everyone, to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on the chapter Advice to an Actor. The date is Sunday, May 25th, 1884, and it is page 438. And Sri Ramakrishna has been speaking to Surendra, and some other devotees are there also. They were sitting in the Panchavati. Vijay, Surendra, Bhavanath, Rakal, and other devotees. No, this was a late birthday celebration for Sri Ramakrishna. Master, there are 8 fetters with which man is bound: shame, hatred, fear, pride of caste, hesitation, the desire to conceal, and so forth. Sri Ramakrishna sang, Mother, this is the grief that sorely grieves my heart, that even with thee for mother, and though I am wide awake, there should be robbery in my house. This is a very nice idea. What does it mean, there should be robbery in my house? Little self-deception, huh? It's an interesting concept, huh? There should be robbery in my house. That somehow this covering of Maya, deprived of vision of God. But I think something with self-deception also, a little bit. Huh? What do you think, Manoj?
What the full song?
It just says, Mother, this is the grief that sorely grieves my heart, that even with thee for mother, and though I'm wide awake, there should be robbery in my house.
He's talking about those 8 Ashtapas.
He started out with these 8 fetters. See, the interesting thing is that there's no moralizing. It's not that these 8 fetters, that these are all sinful things. In the West, we like to think of sin, that you'll go to hell, these are sinful things. But these really bind us. It's a psychological doctrine that all these desires and there's envy and fear and pride, all of these things, that they keep us in a state of bondage. They don't allow us to realize the joy within our hearts, the divine presence within. They keep us tied to this ego idea. And somehow we're deprived of that divinity. So some type of robbery has taken place. Not a real robbery, but it's an interesting concept. He continued, in the world's busy marketplace, O Shama, thou art flying kites. High up they soar on the wind of hope, held fast by Maya's string. Their frames are human skeletons, their sails of the 3 gunas made. But all the curious workmanship is merely for ornament. Upon the kite strings thou hast rubbed the manja paste of worldliness, so as to make each straining strand all the more sharp and strong. Out of 100,000 kites, at best but 1 or 2 break free, and thou dost laugh and clap thy hands, O mother, watching them. When favoring winds, says Ram Prasad, the kites set loose will speedily be borne away to the infinite across the sea of the world. This kite flying in India, I think it probably comes from Central Asia. Afghanistan is a very big thing. There was a book and a film that was made. What was it called? The Kite Flyer, something like that. Anyhow, it's a game that they play where they fly their kites and they try to break the string of the other. So they'll put all this corrosive stuff. All the references are to that. But in the real game, it's the one that has the kite under his control who wins. Here is the opposite. The ones who get cut, they win. So it just like Ramakrishna said, with a card game. There's a type of card game that they used to play. You hand out cards, and you add up the numbers of your cards. And if you get too large a number, then you've lost. You're out of the game. And the clever people, they get low numbers, a 2, then a 3, then a 5, then a 6. And if they get all of their cards and they haven't gone over, like 21, something like that, then they win. But for Swami Krishna, he thought he was the winner because he already got too many cards in the beginning, was out of the game. So that means that out of the bondage to the world, could just observe and watch without any personal attachment or self-interest or anything. So this is a beautiful song by Ram Prasad. But the thing is that those who really can break free, this Maya is so strong that very few people, out of 100,000 kites, at best but 1 or 2 break free. Now this means that here and now to attain God realization. It doesn't mean that we can't attain that liberation at the final moment. It's 2 different things. We're promised by Holy Mother. Swami B kept telling me, Holy Mother will come. We're promised that she'll come. We'll get our liberation. And then, if not before, if we want it before, we have to work very hard. If we want it here and now, to live in the world as a free soul, that's a different thing. So that's what this song is talking about. What are these kites? They're the human skeletons. The sails are the 3 gunas. Master. Maya's string means family. It says wife and children, but family. There'll be a lot of things about family life here. I'm going to skip some of them. Upon the kite strings thou hast rubbed the manja paste of worldliness. Worldliness means lust and gold. The 3 gunas, Satwa, Rajas, and Tamas, have men under their control. They are like 3 brothers. As long as Satwa exists, it calls on Rajas for help, and Rajas can get help from Tamas. Yeah, this Satwa, sometimes we talk about this Shuddha Sattva, pure Satwa. That'll be a little bit different beyond all of these things. But Satwa, some feeling of goodness, we have some idea of badness also. That there'll be some pairs of opposites that are there. Even if we want to do some good things, then we need some rajas to come in with our Satwa. Then when that rajas comes, then a little bit of ego may come, a little bit of tamas may come into it also, and a little anger and things. So it's a very complicated business, all of this with these 3 gunas. The 3 gunas are so many robbers. Tamas kills and Rajas binds. Satwa no doubt releases man from his bondage, but it cannot take him to God. Now, Swami Krishna says it can point the way. It won't go along all the way with him. So sometimes we may get this notion that we have to transcend Satwa. That some people sometimes will ask, how do I go beyond Satwa? We first have to get there first. We have to develop it first. Yeah. So if we're on the bottom rung of the ladder and we're trying to go up step by step by step, we don't have to worry about what we'll do at the top. But the point is that if anybody's climbed the ladder to get to the roof, it's easy to climb all the way. When you have to go from the ladder to the roof itself, then there's a bit of an extra, a little fear and a little extra thing. You have to leave that last one behind also. But the only way that we can get beyond this tamas and rajas is by developing sattva. The formula that Swamiji gives, we go beyond tamas with rajas. That we have to make ourselves a little active. If our problem is we're lazy, so we have to become active. But if we want to get over that, then we have to bring in this calmness and quiet. We have to bring in sattva. So we do it little by little, but everything is a mixture. People are a mixture. Every action that we do will have a little bit of There may be good, pure, beautiful action. There may be a little bit of pride there. Uh, there's a, and people are definitely a mixture. This human mind is very strange. It can be perfectly pure and sattvic in one field, and then in another area, very devious and full of desires, as if we had different compartments in the mind. We see this sometimes with very great people. They'll do such stupid things sometimes. Yeah, yes, out of desires and yeah. We wonder how is it possible? Such intelligent people, because the mind is like that, and then it rationalizes. This is we think that we're doing this vichara. We think that we're analyzing and everything. There's a very fine line between reasoning and rationalizing. Rationalizing, we do what we want to do and make up reasons to tell us that it was the right thing to do. We can do that with anything. Yeah.
Even after doing wrong things.
Even after doing the wrong thing. Yeah. We can rationalize. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, we do it all of the time. Especially, see, we have a lot of nice theories to fall back on. We're all bound by our prakriti. We're bound by our nature. So we say, what could I do? This is my nature. Now, deep down, we know that, yeah, we gave into our nature. We had that natural tendency, but we gave into it. So we deep down, we know that we really could have done something else. We could have made the right choice, and we didn't. We should take responsibility. That's all. We know that the tendency is there, but this is what separates us from lower beings. That we don't have to follow that tendency. We were talking today about Swamiji's great statement that this, these things may be natural, but in spiritual life, we have to fight nature. We have to combat it. We have to try to recognize our lower nature, but at the same time, then we have to realize that we have the power as human beings to change our nature little by little. This is that wiggle room theory, you know. You have a little wiggle room, and each time you make a little more room, and each time you make more and more of the progress slowly, slowly, slowly. Uh, Otherwise, we're stuck with we keep doing things according to our old samskaras, and we'll never change. So this is why we do spiritual practice. This is why we have holy company. This is why we believe in grace, you know, because we don't have to remain. When we see that we're bound by these different fetters, we don't have to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. We can learn from them. We can start acting differently. This is what it means to be an intelligent person. Was it Einstein's definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? Yeah, yeah. So we have to understand that the same thing will happen. We have to learn a little bit. So what we're trying to do in spiritual life is develop Satwa. Forget about transcending Satwa. That's a long way off. But once we develop that perfect purity, it'll disappear on its own in good time. We don't have to worry about that. But we want to develop these sattvic qualities of goodness and kindness and generosity and compassion and love. These are the essential parts of spiritual life. Sitting in meditation and doing japa and all of these things, these are essential practices. But unless we develop this sattva, we won't make much progress to these other things. We can't do anything through force of mind until there's some purity of heart and some uh, inner transformation. Then spiritual practice value it'll be there, of course, but it'll be limited and restricted. So, in addition to our spiritual practice, which we have to do, then we have to really work on the personality. We have to work on these samskaras, with these bad tendencies that we have, and try to make some resolution to change the way we behave in the world. So the sattva cannot take a man to God, but it shows him the way. So this is the story of the robbers. That the last one, he the merchant who had been bound and everything was taken by the last robber and said, "This is the direction to take. If you follow this path, it'll take you back to your village." And he said, "Come with me." He said, "No, I can't." He said, "Why not?" He said, "I'm also a robber. They'll catch me and they'll put me in jail." So he's also a robber, but he shows the way. So we have to develop this Satwa. Without that, we're tied to the tree. We're the first robber wanted to kill the merchant. So we need this Satwa. Bhavanat. These are wonderful words indeed, Master. Yes, this is a lofty thought. Yeah, this really, we can't emphasize this too much. As important as spiritual practice is, that we have to try to rid ourselves of anger and pride and ego and all of these things. Somehow to work on these things. Listening to these words of the Master, the devotees felt very happy. Master, lust and gold is the cause of bondage. Now, if we think about it, bondage comes from wanting to get things that we don't have, and lust and either it's in enjoyment or possessions. So these desires they don't allow us to just be happy in this world. So really, this is such a insightful idea that this is bondage. Bondage is of the mind. Now we don't want to belittle real bondage. We had things like slavery and imprisonment, and that's also a horrible thing. But other than that, bondage is in the mind. That we ourselves we feel that we're being led by the nose, by these desires, longing for enjoyment, longing for possession, longing for position, name, and fame, that we don't have our freedom. That these things are controlling us. When we see these great souls, we see some of these senior swamis that so free that you just feel that the mind is empty, the mind is clear and free, because there's nothing that they want that they don't already have. Everything they have is within. So where is bondage if there's no desire? If there's no, and what do we get from possessions? Possessions also possess us. We think we possess them, then we find out they possess us. And these enjoyments, there's no end to them. So if we can somehow transcend these, then we've done half the job in spiritual life. He'll say that.
Is routine considered a bondage for her?
Routine is a great aid for us in everything. In spiritual practice, this is why it's a bondage. It's Swami says, bind yourself to a routine. But this is the highest type of Vidyamaya bondage. It's bondage because, but we're self-imposed bondage, which leads to freedom. It gives us a feeling of freedom. If we follow our routine with great devotion and with great love, not as the slaves. See, look at Hanuman. Did he feel that he was bound? He's a slave to Ramachandra. Does he feel that, oh, what horrible bondage, whatever he tells me to do, I have to do? No, it's out of love. It's such a joy for him. So we're binding ourselves to something that will be joyful and helpful to us. The problem with not having a fixed routine is that we develop bad habits. We make up excuses that, oh, I can do it tomorrow instead of today. If we're strict with ourselves, then there's a tremendous freedom that comes from it. Freedom that comes from binding ourselves to a routine. And even in work, freedom from tamas. Otherwise, we procrastinate. We put things off, and they lay heavy on our minds. Things that, yeah, it's really. I have this theory that for me personally, if I want to start having better meditations, then I should clean my room, clean my desk, put things away. Or the little things that I know I've been putting off and just weighing on me, a little way in the background and everything. Then if some lightness comes, some feeling of, yeah, there's nothing weighing on the mind. So in every field, those people that we see who are very disciplined, there's tremendous freedom for them. Some of these writers, see, every once in a while I have to write an article or something like that. How I put it off and procrastinate and everything. And some of these writers, every morning they'll start exactly at, say, 9 in the morning and work till 12 something. Whole time they'll do it, and there's a certain freedom for them because they don't have to decide. It's fixed in their minds. They just do it. I don't know how they do it. I can't do it, but so even in worldly things, I think having discipline, having a routine, rather than binding us, it frees us. So it's very helpful in spiritual life. It's helpful in spiritual life to have a routine in worldly life. And then those things won't enter our mind. We sit for meditation, and what things come up, the things that we have to do. Yeah? That, oh, I have to do this or that. We can just say, oh, mind, don't think about those things. Or we can do them. Huh? It's such a simple thing. We can do it, then the mind won't go there anymore. It's done. Huh? So, so this routine and everything, uh, especially with spiritual practice, it's once we reach that point where uh, we feel that we're fixed with our routine, then that we've reached a level of some level of security in spiritual life. Not that we've made great progress or anything, but something that we can feel a level of safety a little bit, a little safe haven is there when we get that attachment to our sadhana and our love of the sadhana. Yeah, yeah. Because we're told to love God and we're told all of these things, and what do we know about any of that? But if we can form some attachment to spiritual practice and get some joy out of it, then it's very, very helpful in spiritual life. Lust in gold is the cause of bondage. Lust in gold alone constitutes samsara, the world. This word, samsara, it has a variety of meanings. In Bengali, samsara, it also means family. Yeah, it can mean, yeah, parivar, also family, but specifically wife can mean. So uh, really has three meanings. One is this world, we can say. The second is this coming and going, samsarati, that birth after birth, this continuity of everything. And the other is really social life, family life, worldly life. This is also when we say renounce the world. When I first heard that, I thought, what a strange choice of words. Bengali সংশয় kora, to renounce the word, but it really means renouncing the ordinary life in the world, family life, social life, uh, specifically family life. And it doesn't mean that we have to run off into a cave or something. How do we renounce the world? What does that mean? Even when I first heard it, I thought, what a funny choice of words. How do you renounce the world? You say, banish, go away, world. We can't do that. That whole story that Ramchandra and Vashishta and everything, that if you can tell me is God outside of this world, then you can renounce the world. Anyhow, so this idea really is that if we can go beyond desire and feel that we don't possess anything, this is also partly a feeling. See, as sadhus, we have minimum possessions, but if there's no sense of ownership, then we're free. Of course, the real example is King Janaka, that the great statement. Somebody said, "Oh, there's a fire and everything." You come running. He said, "If all of Mithila burns, nothing of mine will burn." Nothing of mine. He didn't feel any sense of ownership for that. So this idea of possessing things, really, it's true. They possess us. then we become slaves to all of these objects and things. And a few things it's okay, but we have to practice a little moderation. But for real spiritual aspirants, uh, how can we don't even own this body of ours? That if we practice this idea that whatever we have we is an offering to God, then I can't even claim possession of this body itself. It's harder, of course, if we hold the deed to the house to say I don't own the house. The feeling will come a little bit. For us, we live in an ashram. We don't hold the deed to it. We're lucky that somebody allows us to live here. If we're asked to leave, we leave. We don't make any claim. No, it's my place. It's my house. Uh, but that same mindset has to be there for householders and monks, both. So it is lust and gold that keeps one from seeing God, holding the towel in front of his face. Do you see my face anymore? Of course not. The towel hides it. This is Maya, of course. No sooner is the covering of lust and gold removed than one attains Chidananda, consciousness and bliss. Let me tell you something. He who has renounced the pleasure of a wife or husband, doesn't mean worldly life, has verily renounced the pleasure of the world. God is very near to such a person. The devotees listen to these words in silence. Master, to Kedar, Vijay, and the other devotees. Now, we should remember that Vijay is in the midst of leaving his wife and family behind and becoming a sadhu. He'll start showing up wearing garo and everything. He's about to leave the Brahmo Samaj, and then he becomes a very well-known saintly figure after this. And many followers, and there are books written about him and everything. So this is partly for Vijay. We can guess. So to Kedar, Vijay, and the other devotees, he who has renounced the pleasure of a wife or husband, family, has verily renounced the pleasure of the world. It is lust and gold that hides God. You people have such imposing mustaches, and yet you too are involved in lust and gold. Tell me if it isn't true. Search your heart and answer me. Vijay, yes, it is true. Kedar remained silent. So Vijay, he really appreciated Sri Ramakrishna. He really underwent tremendous change. This is Kedar. Kedar was a very, very complicated person. Sometimes Thakur loved him. Sometimes he said, "Get him away from me." He followed all different things. He tried all these different weird sects and everything. Was very devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, and sometimes Sri Ramakrishna really praises him for his devotion also. And they were good friends. This is Kedar and Vijay, because Vijay had his home near Dhaka, and Kedar had his business there. Okay, now I'm going to skip a little section here. Too much of wife bashing for a while. And Surendra's younger brother and his nephew were present. The brother worked in an office, and one of the nephews was studying law. Master, to Surendra's relatives, my advice to you is not to become attached to the world. You see, Rakal now understands what is knowledge and what is ignorance. He can discriminate between the real and the unreal. So I say to him, go home. You may come here once in a while and spend a day or two with me. Now, going home, he had a young wife and already child by now. Yeah. And who would have been staying, I don't know, sometimes she stayed with her father's home, but when he went home, she would be there. So that was in the beginning, Sri Ramakrishna really wanted him to stay with him. And now he says every once in a while, I'll go home, it's okay. That this is that example that Thakur gives in the beginning, the small plant has to be protected with a fence. And when it gets nice and big, then you can even tie an elephant to it. So he felt that now, Rakal, there was no danger of any attachment attachment to the world, even to a wife and a child. Have a friendly relationship with one another. Now he's talking again to the actors who were there. Remember this chapter, advice to an actor. There had been a performance the night before, and they came to see him. This was specifically, or especially this one actor. Have a friendly relationship with one another. That will be for your good and make you all happy. In a theater, the performance goes well only if the musicians sing with one voice, and that also gladdens the hearts of the audience. Do your worldly duties with a part of your mind and direct most of it to God. A sadhu should think of God with 3/4 of his mind, and with 1/4 should do his other duties. Now, when we say a sadhu, it has two meanings. One, of course, is sannyasi, and the other is a good person. I remember once, my very early days when I went to Bellarmine, I always went with the other sadhus, but I hadn't joined yet. I was still a college student, you could say. I remember it wasn't one of the sadhus. I think it was this old barber who used to be there. He was asking, I asked, "Are you a sadhu?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Then are you a sadhu? Are you a bad person?" I said, "No, I'm not a bad person." He was joking, but what he meant was, don't think just because you haven't taken formal vows or anything, you can't consider yourself a good person, a sadhu like that. So we're all sadhus from that point of view. But there's specifically, those sannyasis are called sadhus, of course. So this applies to everyone, that we really, if we look at the state of mind that we normally have when we perform our normal duties and do things in the world, it's scattered. It's generally scattered. We'll focus on some things, and then we'll think of some other things and everything. If 1/4 of the mind is concentrated on the work, it's better usually than what we normally think of the whole mind is on the work, because the mind is scattered. If 1/4 of the mind is focused, then that's more than enough that we need. And if the rest of the mind is focused on God, spiritual life, our spiritual ideal, this lila, whatever it is, however we keep the mind connected with the divine, they don't conflict with each other. Or even if we think of repeating mantra and keeping that current, that divine current underneath, that doesn't conflict with anything. In fact, we can do things, especially manual things, mowing the lawn, and working in the shop, anything like that. We find that concentration can be there almost 100% with what we're doing, and almost 100% with the mind being connected with the spiritual ideal. We say 75%, 25%, thinking that this, but there'll be an undercurrent there. I find actually the more the mind is focused on repeating the mantra and all of that, the better the work is. That little bit of concentration is really directed in everything. Yeah. So if I'm working in the shop and I ever forget to do this mantra and everything, I find that I make mistakes and do things, cut my fingers and everything. So this I know for a fact, that especially work that requires tremendous concentration, that we can almost get to the point where it's only the hands and the eyes and the little bit of the mind that are all working together to do all of that. The rest of the mind is free. We repeat that mantra and everything. Yeah. We're driving a car. Yeah. Driving a car is a very, very good example. Actually, sometimes driving a car, I'm sometimes amazed that maybe 2 or 3 blocks can go, and I think, oh my God, who was driving? I don't remember making a turn. I don't remember anything. It just gets done. Sometimes singing the kandana and other things, sometimes I think, oh my God, how many things have I forgotten? I wasn't concentrating at all. The whole mind was someplace else, but just through force of habit. Of course, sometimes I make mistakes and forget things, but just this mind works without us sometimes to a large extent. Driving is a really good example. In the beginning, we have to calculate everything, but when making a turn, how many think that when you go out a certain distance, then you have to turn the wheel a certain amount, then you go and maybe parallel parking, we think about that. But ordinary driving, it becomes automatic. We don't think about it, especially our. Yeah. So that's a very good example. But we don't want to reach that point where, oh, where was my mind? That I don't know, how did I even drive the last, few blocks? I wasn't concentrating at all. It's the exact opposite. If we concentrate on repeating the mantra, we can really be fixed on the steering wheel and the road and all of that at the same time. It's not the same as the scattered mind. It's completely different. So it's a good practice that try to combine concentration on japa, not counting, of course, just repeating that mantra silently within and fully fixed on what we're doing. Almost 100%, 100%. If we want to really divide it the other way, then it's nice. 25% is enough for the work, 75% for God. So, do your worldly duties with a part of your mind and direct most of it to God. A sadhu should think of God with 3/4 of his mind, and with 1/4 should do his other duties. He should be very alert about spiritual things. The snake is very sensitive in its tail. Its whole body reacts when it is hurt there. Similarly, the whole life of a sadhu is affected when his spirituality is touched. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, that sadhus in the West, we have to do so many compromises, but internally in spirit, we try not to compromise at all. So we have some possessions that we really try to keep everything to a minimum. That we don't own anything, but this idea of the mind being the most important thing, not physically where we are or anything like that. It's a very nice idea. I remember we had one Swami, very, very wonderful Swami. He was Swami Lokeshwaraji's cousin, this Swami Premarupananda. Yeah, wonderful Swami. And he came to Institute of Culture once, and we were all sitting around in his room there. And he had that picture that we see of Swamiji and Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Triyananda, Swami Sarananda kneeling down and everything. It was either Baranagar or one of the early places. Anyhow, all of them you can see in that spirit of intense renunciation. And so somebody asked him about it. He said he always carried it with him. So if he was staying in a place like culture, it's like a palace compared to, especially in the early days, compared to where most people live, or these, for it's like a palace. Always like to feel that he was living in Baranagamut or something like that, to keep that feeling, the sadhu feeling and everything. So these are important things for us, that we try to keep that spirit, even though we're also living in a palace here. What can we do? And eating like kings, what can we do? It's our karma. Sri Ramakrishna was going to the pine grove and asked Gopal of Sinti to take his umbrella to his room. Arrangements had been made in the Panchavati for the kirtan. When the master had returned and taken his seat again among the devotees, the musician began her song. Suddenly there came a rainstorm. The master went back to his room with the devotees, the musician accompanying them to continue her songs there. Master to Gopal, have you brought the umbrella? Gopal, no, sir. I forgot all about it while listening to the music. The umbrella had been left in the Panchavati, and Gopal hurried to fetch it. Master, I am generally careless, but not to that extent. Yeah, in fact, he used to say that sometimes he doesn't know if his cloth is on or is not on, but he never left anything behind. And he gave all of these instructions to Holy Mother. Yeah, that when you go someplace, be the first one there, arrange everything. When you leave, be the last one to leave to make sure nobody left anything behind. Yeah, all the very practical things, and he followed these things. Rakal is also very careless, referring to the date of an invitation. He says the 11th instead of the 13th. This was a big thing. Who was it? Was Ramchandra? Yeah, got so offended that he wasn't invited. It was the wrong day. It was Ishan's house or something. And yeah. Before, somebody blamed Rakal and he defended him. He said, what can he do? He's just a child. Don't blame him. But now he's blaming him. He says the 11th instead of the 13th. And Gopal, he belongs to a herd of cows. This is a pun in Bengali. Pal, it means a herd. So go to the pal. Yeah, so go pal, a herd of cows. The musician sang a song about the monastic life of Chaitanya. Now and then she improvised lines. Yeah, this is interesting that they have a woman singing for Sri Ramakrishna, and he doesn't mind. See, all this talk about not looking in the face of a woman and everything. But he seems to be quite happy with her. And she's singing all about renunciation and about men not looking at women. This Chaitanya Dev. Yeah. The musician sang a line about the monastic life of Chaitanya. Now and then she improvised lines. He will not look upon a woman, for that is against the sannyasi's duty. Eager to take away men's sorrows, he will not look upon a woman, for the Lord's birth as Sri Chaitanya otherwise would be in vain. Yeah, the sannyas of Chaitanya Deva, this Nimai sannyas, is one of the most popular types of kirtan and jata and everything in Bengal. And people weep and everything, how his poor mother, that all of the other children had died. The one son who was living, he renounced the world. Father was gone. That was her only thing, her son. And to give him up and for him to leave and all the other devotees there, and everything, tremendously sad type of thing. But inspiring, how willing to renounce everything. The master stood up as he heard about Chaitanya's renunciation and went into samadhi. The devotees put garlands of flowers around his neck. Remember, this is kind of his late birthday celebration because of his broken arm. Bhavanath and Rakal supported his body lest he should fall on the ground. Vijay, Kedar, Ram, M, Latu, and the other devotees stood around him in a circle, recalling one of the scenes of Chaitanya's kirtan. So they used to do the same thing with Sri Ramakrishna, how they would encircle him and he would just kind of dance on his own. That was one of the scenes that would happen with Chaitanya Dev. In that courtyard, Srivasa courtyard, was a common place. The master gradually came down to the sense plane. He was talking to Krishna, now and then uttering the word Krishna. He could not say it very distinctly because of the intensity of his spiritual emotion. He said, Krishna, probably Kitna, he used to say. I forget it. What is it in the Bengali? Does it show? Yeah. Kishta. Actually, when Swamiji refers to Swami Krishna, he says Ram Kishto. That letter he writes to M at the beginning. You've yeah, Ram Kishto.
Krishna becomes Kishto.
Kishto. Yeah.
Kishto.
Yeah. There's a Bengali expression, Koshto Kole Kishto Pai.
There was one Keshto Mukherjee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that comedian?
Yeah. Sani Kishto, yeah. So Koshto Kole Kishto Pai. Yeah. That's because in India, I had to learn that because everyone was always telling me, "Oh, ki koshto, how much you're suffering with this heat and everything." So I learned that koshto kali koshto pai. Yeah, you suffer a little bit, you'll get God.
Very beautiful this thing.
Huh.
Just before elections, they write graffiti on the wall.
Yeah.
And somebody had written Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram.
Oh, and changed and dropped it. Yeah. This is a story that Swami Yogananda tells. Yeah, this is during the Naxalite period. We had Hare Krishna, Hare Bam, Hare Bam, 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 Hare Bam, Hare Bam, 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 Hare Bam.
What does that mean?
Hare Krishna. It means there'll be bombs. Yeah.
No. Hare Bam means the left front will come to power. Hare Bam.
Okay. Okay. So the left wingers will come into power. I thought it meant that they'll be throwing bombs. That's it. Nowadays, I do not see your form. He's talking to Krishna. Now remember that this is after the broken arm. The Divine Mother said, "You've stopped seeing all these things in Bhava, all these divine forms. See God dwelling within." So now he's telling Krishna that I'm not seeing your form anymore. Now I see you both inside me and outside. I see that it is you who have become the universe, all living beings, the 24 cosmic principles, and everything else. Yeah, this idea that seeing this whole universe as a Brahman, this is not some new idea with Sri Ramakrishna. This is a very ancient idea. This idea of Virat, or even this Purusha Suktam and everything. That the whole universe is the body of God. We have this very ancient idea. This idea that this world is nothing but a dream and everything. This is for Sri Ramakrishna during the time of discrimination, when we practice that. But otherwise, there's a very traditional idea. God is beyond everything. God projects everything. God dwells within everything. And God is everything. This so from Swarat to Virat, then everything in between, transcendent, immanent, and then manifested as Virat. The Swarat, perfectly independent, free from everything, unconnected to anything, that transcendent, absolute, pure consciousness. That same pure consciousness is this visible universe, this Virat. So these are very early ideas we have in the Vedic period and Upanishads and some of the hymns and things. You have become the universe, all living beings, the 24 cosmic principles, and everything else. You alone have become mind, intelligence, everything. It is said in the hymn of salutations to the Guru, I bow down to the Guru by whose grace I've realized him who pervades the indivisible universe of the animate and the inanimate. You alone are the indivisible. Now remember, he's in this semi-ecstatic state, now talking to Sri Krishna. You alone are the indivisible. Again, it is you who pervade the universe of the animate and the inanimate. You are verily the manifold universe. Again, you alone are its basis. So the ground also, and transcendent and untouched. All of these different levels or aspects or different ways of looking at it. You are verily the manifold universe alone. Again, you alone are its basis. O Krishna, you are my life. O Krishna, you are my mind. O Krishna, you are my intelligence. O Krishna, you are my soul. O Govinda, you are my life breath. You are life, or my life itself. Vijay was also in an ecstatic mood. The master asked him, My dear sir, have you too become unconscious? No, sir, said Vijay humbly. The music went on. The musician was singing about the blinding love of God as she improvised the lines. O beloved of my soul, within the chamber of my heart, I would have kept you day and night. Now just try to picture the scene She's trying to sing. He keeps interrupting with with his ecstasy and his conversation and everything. Then there'll be a little bit alone. She'll start singing again. The master again went into samadhi. His injured arm rested on Bhavanath's shoulder. Sri Ramakrishna partly regained outer consciousness. The musician improvised. Why should one who, for thy sake, has given up everything, endure so much of suffering? The master bowed to the musician and sat down to listen to the music. Now and then he became abstracted. When the musician stopped singing, Sri Ramakrishna began to talk to the devotees, Master, to Vijay, and the others. What is prema? Now, in the Vaishnava tradition, especially, they'll have all different levels. So you have bhakti, you'll have bhava, you'll have prema, you have mahabhava. And Sri Ramakrishna says that these very high states of ecstatic love are not for everybody. And just as this nirvikalpa samadhi is for a rare few, and that most of us can handle it, we also can't handle these highly emotional states. It's like the elephant going into a small hut. It'll just break everything. So this is reserved, in that tradition at least, reserved for these few great souls. We see it in Radha, she's the main example, in Chaitanya Deva. And because the Brahmani saw it in Sri Ramakrishna, that's how she proved to everybody that he was equally divine manifestation avatar. All those signs were seen in him also. So prema is a very high state. It is not ordinary love. It's a complete selfless love of God. The all-consuming type of love. It doesn't happen without some type of experience or vision or something. What is prema? He who feels it, this intense and ecstatic love of God, not only forgets the world, but forgets even the body, which is so dear to all. Chaitanya experienced it. Yes, Ramakrishna, he would go into that state, rolling on the ground. Sometimes, one time he rolled over these burning coals. They got embedded in his skin even. He didn't even notice it at the time. The mind would be so lost and completely forgetful of the body. The master explained this to the devotees by singing a song describing the ecstatic state of prema. Oh, when will dawn the blessed day, when tears of joy will flow from my eyes as I repeat Lord Hari's name. The master began to dance, and the devotees joined him. He caught M by the arm and dragged him into the circle. M was very shy and didn't like to sing or dance or anything. He would just kind of sit on the side and watch, and Thakur would get annoyed sometime that why this show of shyness and everything. With this love of God, one should feel free. He says, you don't mind baring your teeth in front of your students, but when you come here, yeah. So he grabbed him, drew him into the circle. Thus dancing, Sri Ramakrishna again went into samadhi. Standing transfixed, he looked like a picture on canvas. This will be the bhava samadhi, because the whole mind is in the devotional mood. So that'll color the type of spiritual experience that he has. Standing transfixed, he looked like a picture on canvas. Kedar repeated the following hymn to bring his mind down from the plane of samadhi. We worship the Brahman consciousness in the lotus of the heart, the undifferentiated, who is adored by Hari, Hara, and Brahma, who is attained by yogis in the depths of their meditation, the scatterer of the fear of birth and death, the essence of knowledge and truth, the primal seed of the world. Sri Ramakrishna gradually came back to the plane of normal consciousness. He took a seat and chanted the names of God, Om, Satchidananda, Govinda, Govinda, Yogamaya, Bhagavata, Bhakta, Bhagavan. The master took dust from the place where the kirtan had been sung and touched it to his forehead. A little later, Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the semicircular porch facing the Ganges, the devotee sitting by his side. Now and then the master would exclaim, "Ah, Krishna Chaitanya." This was actually the name Chaitanya is taken from this. That's kind of the full name. They don't know, again, was it given by Keshav Bharati or where he got that name, but anyhow, whether it was a brahmacharya name, but it refers to Chaitanya Deva. Master, to Vijay and the others, there's been much chanting of the Lord's name in the room. That is why the atmosphere has become so intense. Bhavanat, words of renunciation too. The master said, "Ah, how thrilling." Then he sang about Gauranga and Nityananda. Nityananda was, they talk about them as two brothers. They weren't literally brothers, but they were like brothers, so close. Gaura bestows the nectar of prema. Jar after jar, he pours it out, and still there is no end. Sweetest Nitai is summoning all. Nimai and Nitai were the two nicknames. Nitai from Nityananda. Nimai is Chaitanya Dev. Sweetest Nitai is summoning all. Beloved Gaura. So these are all different names. That's Chaitanya Dev. Bids them come. Shantipur is almost drowned, and Nadia is flooded with prema. Shantipur and Nadia, they were two nearby. Shantipur was where Advaita Acharya was from, Advaita Goswami. And he used to come into Nadia's Navadvip. So they were two very famous places in those days. A lot of scholarship was done and everything, a high culture in Bengal at that time. Master, to Vijay and the others, the musician sang rightly. A sannyasi must not look at a woman. This is the sannyasi's dharma. The whole time they're watching a woman sing. What a lofty ideal. Vijay, yes, indeed, Chaitanya Deva was even stricter. We know that story about the younger Hari, that Haridas. Yeah, they were trying to arrange some feast. He had to, he went. There was some very fine type of rice. She was an elderly widow to ask her that, and just because of that, he got banned from the community to set an example. That was his teaching to him and everything. Once a Marwari devotee wanted to give me some money. Mathur wanted to deed me some land, but I couldn't accept either. The rules for the life of a sannyasi are very strict indeed. If a man takes the garb of a sannyasi, he must act exactly like one. Haven't you noticed in the theater that the man who takes the part of the king acts like a king, and the man who takes the part of a minister acts like a minister? But on attaining the state of the Paramahamsa, one becomes like a child. A child, 5 years old, doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman. But even a Paramahamsa must be careful so as not to set a bad example to others. Referring to Keshav's association with lust and gold, which had hindered his work as a spiritual teacher. Yes, Ramakrishna used to say that who will follow anybody who's talking about renunciation if they're married people, if they have their family and everything. Sri Ramakrishna said to Vijay, do you understand? Vijay, yes, sir. Master, he couldn't achieve very much. He achieved so much, but he could have achieved so much more. This is his point. He couldn't achieve very much because he wanted to satisfy both God and the world. He had his family, he had to arrange the marriages, and we know these things. Vijay, Chaitanya said to Nityananda, Nitai, I shall not be able to do the people any good unless I renounce the world. All will imitate me and want to lead the life of a householder. No one will try to direct his whole mind to the lotus feet of God, renouncing lust and gold. Master, yes, Chaitanya Deva renounced the world to set an example to mankind. The sannyasi must renounce lust and gold for his own welfare, even if he is unattached and consequently not in danger. Still, in order to set an example to others, he must not keep lust and gold, woman and gold, near him. The sannyasi, the man of renunciation, is a world teacher. It is his example that awakens the spiritual consciousness of men. It was nearly dusk. The devotees saluted the master and took their leave. And this is the end of the chapter, Advice to an Actor. We'll start next time, Festival at Surendra's house.
So, Swamiji,
Yeah.
during 12 years of Thakur's intense sadhana,
Yes.
nobody was there to give any, stories or from those times, from those
Yeah.
12 years?
Yeah.
We have any of those?
Yeah, the great master. Yeah. It's based to a large extent on Hriday, on his reminiscences and everything. Yeah. There's some periods that we don't know too much, but Thakur himself tells us a lot of it is his own retelling of those years and everything. But the only odd thing is that we hear when he was in that near Vikalpa state that some wandering sadhu had to come and take care of him. Where was everybody else then? Mathur had passed away, but where was everybody else? That I never quite understood. Maybe they were there, but they knew the sadhu was helping out, so they let him do it, or I don't know. It's very odd, huh?
They had their own. They have to work also.
But still,
Who will be with him for 24 hours?
no. But they make it sound like there was nobody there to keep him alive. That people had just kind of left him. Huh? Satuvai, what's your theory? Huh? Is it a little odd, huh?
Father was the only one who really understood and knew what to do.
Well, I mean, they knew that he wasn't dead. They were still keeping him there and everything. Yeah. No, there are plenty of people that all of these pundits. I mean, at other times, by the Brahmini and everything, that was kind of a common thing to try to bring back this body consciousness. They killed that one sadhu, remember, who was in samadhi just to bring his mind down. They even burned him a little bit. Yeah. Anyhow, it's one of the mysteries. Yeah. Okay. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhatadavikraham Yashavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Sirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Okay, everyone, don't forget, we have our 4th of July puja and celebration and everything coming up on Tuesday. Next, yeah, okay.